So let's begin with the salaries related amendments for May 24 or even September 24 exams. So in this we have Finance Act 2023 amendments. Of course, we also have supplementary material related amendment. Especially this rent-free accommodation valuation has changed now. Even those of you who followed latest ICM study material applicable for May, you have to go through this particular amendment. So this is very important amendment, no doubt about it. This is going to be tested for sure. I'm thinking so. Getting it? So rent-free accommodation, the limits, the perquisite valuation rules have been changed. That too, only for own property. If employer is providing a rent-free accommodation or concessional accommodation to an employee, which is owned by employer, but other than a government employer, nothing but a private sector employer, other than a government employer, if at all he is providing rent-free accommodation to an employee, what is the perquisite valuation rule that we already know? It depends. The old rule is what? What is the old limit? If at all the population is more than 25 lakhs in the locality where the accommodation is provided, 15% of the salary. If the population is between 10 to 25 lakh, 10% of salary. If the population is other cases, nothing but 10 lakhs less, below 10 lakhs population, 7.5% of the salary. This is the perquisite rule. So no, this much should be the value. So value of perk is equal to 15 or 10 or 7.5 percentage, as the case may be. Now these percentages have been modified. Population limit has been modified. Now the population limit is taken as per 2011 census. As per 2011 census, the first category, top category, if the population in a city is more than 40 lakhs, where the accommodation is provided, 10% of the salary is a perquisite value. If the population is provided in a city between 15 to 40 lakhs, 7.5% of the salary. And if it is any other area, 5%. Technically speaking, the perquisite value has been decreased because earlier it is 15, now it is 10. Earlier it is 10, here it is 7.5. Earlier it is 7.5, here it is 5. The value of perquisite has been changed because these limits and all were given in old. These limits and all were given in somewhere in 2005-6 time they drafted. At that time, salary amount is low. So value of accommodation 15% is very high. But now salary amounts have increased like anything, right? Nowadays people are having at least 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs packages. Yes or no? Salaries have been increased. So accommodation value generally be, the rental expenditure is generally be the 10 to 15% or less than 10 to 15%. On that logic, the percentages have been liberalized. The percentages have been relaxed. Getting it? They reduced it. So now maximum rent-free accommodation perquisite value is how much now? 10% of salary. Remember, this is only if the accommodation is owned. What about rented accommodation provided? There is no change. 15% of salary or actual lease rental, whichever is higher. Yes or no? Sorry, whichever is lower. In case of hotel accommodation, if the accommodation is provided in hotel, 24% of salary or actual rent, whichever is lower. All that we know, that exactly same, no changes in that. Only if the accommodation is owned by an employer other than government employer, and if the salary, if the population in that city is more than 40 lakhs, 10% of the salary is a perquisite. If the population is between 15 to 40 lakhs, 7.5%. If the in any other area, 5%. And this is one amendment. This is one amendment. There is one more big amendment in RFA. There is one more very big amendment in RFA. Cost inflation index, something like capital gains topic has been brought. Many students, they are only thinking about this is the major amendment. This is nothing jujube, percentage change. Nothing big in this. Just 15, instead of 15, 10. Instead of 25 lakh, 40 lakh. Instead of 10 to 25, 15 to 40. And 10, 7.5, 7.5, 5. This is not a big deal. This is not an amendment according to me. This is not a big deal at all. The big deal is the second. Value of perquisite is restricted to cost inflation index. Generally, how perquisite is valued every year. Suppose 20 to 23 financial year, my salary details, basic salary is this much, DA is this much, commission, various allowances, all that is this much. We have salary definition. We have a salary definition. I explained you rent-free accommodation clearly along with the salary definition, how to compute RFA value in the marathon clearly. Getting it? You can absolutely watch that marathon. Only amended portion you watch this. Enough. Getting it? Because in the main material, this is not amended. This amendment has been given only in the supplementary material. Getting it? Now, salary means what? Basic, plus salary means what? Actually basic plus DA for retirement plus commission percentage of, sorry, it's actually any commission. Basic plus DA for retirement plus any commission plus bonus plus taxable portion of allowances. This is the salary definition which I drafted. Whatever the definition they gave, no, for perquisite valuation, what do you mean by salary? What are the included in salary? What are excluded in the salary? By thoroughly analyzing it, that definition can be drafted as like this. So this logic I clearly covered in the marathon. Go to marathon, income from salary time step. Inside that, you'll find RFA related thing. You just find that. So now, so every year we have to compute perquisite value based upon the salary figures of the every year. Correct? Now, first year, suppose from previous year 23-24 onwards, or from the year in which accommodation is actually provided to the employee, whichever is later, which means suppose I am working in a company from past 5-6 years. I was given accommodation long back. From 23-24 onwards, accommodation valuation changes. For 23-24, what is your basic salary? DA, all that apply this at 10%, 7.5%, 5% as usual logic. For 23-24 financial year, consider that as a first year, nothing but. Consider that as a first year in which employee got accommodation. Consider 23-24 as the first year for which employee got accommodation. Getting the point? So consider and calculate 10%, 7.5%, 5% as the case may become. Consider, compute, first year accommodation perquisite value. Now 24-25, next year, suppose the employee was given the same accommodation, employee continued to stay in the same accommodation next year also. In the previous year 24-25, how to compute perquisite value? Generally, how do we compute? In 24-25, basic, how much DA, how much commission, how much bonus, how much, all this we will take and apply 10% or 7.5 or 5. That is the normal rule. But now, for 23-24, you compute perquisite value, right? By taking 10% of salary, 7.5% of salary, 5% of salary, where you take salary various components. For 23-24, you compute, right? 23-24 value, you take it as base year. You take that value as what? Base year. Value in the first previous year. That is actually called as what? First previous year. Multiplied by. Now 24-25, previous year 24-25. What is the perquisite value for rent-free accommodation? Don't take 24-25 salary figures. Take 23-24 perquisite value. Take 23-24 perquisite value multiplied with CII of 24-25, CII of 23-24, CII of 24-25, CII of cost inflation index of 23-24. Something like indexed cost of acquisition concept is applied here. This change has been brought. What the section says is, like, first I'll read and then again once again I'll give you a detailed explanation. Where the accommodation is owned or taken on lease or rent, whatever it is, doesn't matter. The same accommodation is continued to be provided to the same employee for more than 1 year. The value of perquisite calculated above shall not exceed the amount so calculated for first previous year. Whatever accommodation value you are calculating, it should not exceed first previous year. Multiplied by, look at this, multiplied by amount of which the ratio of CI of the previous year for which you are calculating and denominator CI of the previous year in which accommodation was initially provided to the employee. You getting the point? So initially when it was provided to the employee, so nothing but first previous year means, so 23-24 or the previous year in which accommodation was provided to the employee, whichever is later. Just a minute. Yes, sir. Fine. So once again look at this. So the value of perquisite for subsequent years of the rent-free accommodation, how it shall be calculated? It shall not exceed amount so calculated for first year. First previous year means what? Either 23-24 or the year in which accommodation is actually given to employee, whichever is later. Suppose an employee he is working in the company from long ago, even 23-24 also is working, but he didn't take accommodation facility. 25-26 year he got accommodation facility. 25-26 will be the first year for him. Getting it? If at all I got accommodation from long ago, 23-24 will be the first year. Are you getting it? Nothing but what they are saying is, suppose 23-24. 23-24, my basic salary is some amount, my DA amount is some amount, bonus is some amount, various. So rent free accommodation we calculated on all this, we applied some 10%. We calculate, let us assume 1,50,000. 1,50,000 is the accommodation value we calculated. Now 23-24 is called as first previous year because you got accommodation earlier, long back. So in the year in which you got accommodation, or 23-24, whichever is later. So that is called as first previous year for the purpose of rent free accommodation valuation of perquisite. So 1,50,000 is the first previous year. Now 24-25 previous year, 24-25 previous year, I am going to the next year. Next year my basic DA, everything are different numbers. Technically speaking, on this I should apply 10%. No, don't follow like this. The rent free accommodation value shall not exceed first previous year value multiplied by CI of current year divided by CI of first previous year. This is what they are saying. So previous year value is how much? 1,50,000 multiplied by CI of first previous year is what? 348. CI of 24-25 year might be some 370 something. That number is not yet released. So that will be the value of the perquisite for the next year. That next year, what is the value of perquisite in 26-27? Take same first previous year perquisite value multiplied by 395. Let us assume 27-28 divided by first previous year 348. So that will be the perquisite value in 25-26. 26-27, same index number based, which means first time when we are calculating perquisite value to an employee, first time when we are calculating perquisite value to an employee who was given rent free accommodation either in the 23-24 or later or before. 23-24 year is the base year for them. If at all already accommodation is provided. Suppose if the employee itself joined the company, or employee for the first time got accommodation, in 25-26 only for the first time, then this is the base year for him. Suppose if the employee got accommodation long back, 23-24 is the base year. Are you getting the point? So this is the base year. So this is base year is called as first previous year. And for this employee, base year is called as 25-26 is called as first previous year. So first previous year you calculate by applying 10%, 7.5%, 5% logic, rent free accommodation value you calculate. You calculate by applying all these percentages. Now next year how to calculate? What is the first previous year value multiplied with CI of the relevant previous year divided by CI of first previous year. First previous year might be 23-24 or the accommodation where he got, whichever is later. This kind of amendment was brought. I don't think they will test it now this May 24 because for May 24 the problems are generally based upon 23-24 previous year, which means for 23-24 previous year you generally have to compute. The next previous year, probably for May 25, January 25 exams onwards, they will be testing subsequent year logic. And in fact, I am very clear on this amendment. I got very good clarity on this amendment, but I felt it is better if CBDT gives some guidelines on this. In fact, this formula is derived by me based on the text, whatever I read, this formula is developed by me. Getting it? So something like capital gains concept. So now onwards, rent free accommodation, every year you need not compute by applying percentage on salary. First time you compute. Next year onwards, remember this CIA technique, this cost inflation index technique is same whether it's a own accommodation or leased or rented accommodation also. Even leased or rented accommodation, first year you compute as per perquisite valuation rule. Second year onwards, you have to compute the accommodation value for that employee as per this logic. CBDT, if at all they give a clarification with some examples, it would be good, because now in the supplementary material also they have not given any details on this. In the supplementary material also they have not given any details on this. They just mentioned like this. They just mentioned it, as a paragraph, which I felt very challenging. For government employer, no problem generally. For government employer, no problem. So probably for government employee, license fee, that concept and all is there. For private employers only this problem is. Now in this amendment, third point, employees serving on deputation. So this is another point which is added, which I have not covered here. You see, that's why I said refers supplementary material for additional points. So in the supplementary material, where accommodation is provided by central government or state government to an employee who is serving on deputation with any body or undertaking under the control of the government. So government is giving accommodation to an employee who is serving with a body corporate or undertaking, some undertaking. The employer of such employee shall be deemed to be the body or undertaking where he is actually serving. Suppose there is a central government employee. Now he is working with Food Corporation of India. Getting it? So though he is a central government employee, now he is working with Food Corporation of India, right? Under deputation, he is treated as Food Corporation of India employee, not government employee. Accordingly, as per 2A, valuation is applicable. As per 2A means, in this diagram, 2A means 10%, 7.5, 5%. That logic. 2A, where accommodation is owned by employer. 2A, this logic is applicable. You know, this table they have given, right? Entire this table is same like old, you know, previous, whatever you have seen in the ICE study material. Only this 2A box changed. Only this is changed. Everything else is same. That's why I'm not covering entire this provision. Why to discuss unnecessarily once again? Only when accommodation is owned by employer and provided to an employee, own accommodation, not a government employer. What is the perquisite valuation rule? We all know it depends upon the population criteria. If it is more than 40 lakhs, 10% of the salary. If it is between 25 to 40 lakh, 15 to 40 lakh, then it is 7.5% of the salary. In any other case, 5% of the salary. That's it. That's it. And if at all, along with accommodation, we provided furniture, all that discussion I have clearly discussed in marathon class. Getting it? You watch in that marathon salaries related timestamp, you will clearly understand. At the end of that salaries timestamp, you will find this amendments video, whatever you're watching, you will find this also there. Getting it? So with this accommodation, major amendment in salaries is completed. I hope you understood this point. I hope you understood this logic. Getting it? If not, just once again listen to it once again. You will definitely get clarity. Next. And in Finance Act 2023, leave encashment, where there are 4 criteria for leave encashment, right? So one of the criteria is statutory limit 3 lakhs, no, that is increased to 25 lakh. The maximum exemption for leave encashment is now increased to 25 lakh. Getting it? Then definition of salary under 17 subsection 1 is, definition of salary has been changed. They have added one more clause number 9. Salary definition is there under income from salaries chapter. Inside that 9th clause is added. One of the clause already there is what, contribution by employer to national pension system under 80 CCD subsection 2. Contribution by employer, that is treated as first salary. The employee, the same amount employee can claim deduction under 80 CCD subsection 2. Similarly, there is a scheme called Agnipath scheme. Agnipath scheme, more information, in-depth information, I will discuss in chapter 6A related amendments video. So you continue watching, you will find chapter 6A timestamp amendment video. There you will understand. Fine. What is Agnipath scheme? Agnipath scheme is something which is launched in 2022, where the government is giving an opportunity for the youth who are aged between 17 to 22 years, 17 to 22 years. So some age, some 1 or plus or minus 1 year, I'm not sure exactly. So 17 to 21, 22 aged people, you can join in Indian Army and serve for 4 years. How many years? 4 years. Now for these 4 years, the government will take care of, some fitment test, everything that and all, health related test and all, everything they do, and they recruit you. Once they recruit you, they will pay every month to you some remuneration. From that remuneration, 30%, approximately 30% you have to contribute to Agnipath scheme. You have to contribute to Agnipath corpus. Getting it? I'll show you. Agniveer corpus fund. So the government has created a fund called Agniveer corpus fund, something like national pension system. So government has created Agniveer corpus fund. Whoever is joining an Agnipath scheme, getting it for 4 years, serving the country, getting it, they'll be getting every month some salary from the government, remuneration from the government, honorarium from the government. On that, whatever you are getting from that, 30% contribute to this. Not only you, central government will give equal contribution how Agniveer is contributing. Agniveer means the person who joined in this scheme is called as Agniveer. The person who joined in this Agnipath scheme is called as Agniveer. Getting it? So Agniveer is nothing but employee of the government now. He is getting salary from the government every month. On that salary, 30% you have to contribute to the Agniveer corpus fund. Equal amount government also will contribute. In this 4 years, so long you are serving the country, you cannot withdraw single rupee. After 4 years, you withdraw, you will get exemption, all that. So that withdrawal, now you are contributing, right? Agniveer is from the salary, whatever he is getting, he is contributing to Agniveer corpus fund, right? He will get a chapter 6A deduction. Now government also contributing, right? That also he can claim under chapter 6A. Now, on my name, government is contributing to Agniveer corpus fund. Is it a benefit to me or not? Yes, that is treated as salary. The contribution made by central government in the previous year to Agniveer Corpus Fund account of an individual who is enrolled in Agnipath scheme. So that is treated as salary. Means first it is taxed as income. Then under Chapter 6A deduction, 80 CCH subsection 2, employer contribution, government contribution, you can claim deduction. First it is taxed, then you can claim deduction. Getting it? Agnipath scheme is a central government scheme launched in 2022 for enrollment of Indian youth for 4 years to serve the country. So in pursuance of that, the government want to create a Agniveer Corpus Fund, a dedicated non-lapsable fund. In that, no fixed percentage of monthly salary would be contributed by Agniveer, and matching amount will also be given by the government, central government. This fund is defined as a fund which is consolidated. This point is not required from exam point of view. Key point. Now you see, central government contribution to Agniveer Corpus Fund would be treated as salary. First it is taxed. Whatever government is contributing in your name, no, that is first taxed as salary. And not only that, okay, it is treated as salary. You can claim deduction, ma. While computing total income, who is enrolled in Agnipath scheme, being an SSE, a deduction under 80CCH is allowed in respect of contribution. Getting it? You will get 80CCH deduction. Whatever amount you contributed, you can claim deduction. 80CCH. 80CCH has 2 subsections. 1 subsection 2. 1 Agniveer contribution. Subsection 2. Subsection 2 is what? Central government contribution. And you know, your contribution is the rate. You can claim 80CCH reduction, but you cannot claim this. You cannot claim this if at all you are choosing 115 BAC. But you can still claim central government employer contribution. 80CC due subsection 2. 80CCH subsection 2, 80JJAA, these 3 sections related contributions under Chapter 6A, you can claim even if you are going with the default tax regime. So, deduction under 80CCH subsection 1 for employee contribution, nothing but Agniveer contribution, is available only if you opt out of the default tax regime, which means you are not choosing default tax regime. And whatever central government is contributing, no, under 80CCH subsection 2, you can claim irrespective of any regime. And that's it. That's about Agniveer scheme salary definition amendment. 3 amendments I have covered. 1, rent-free accommodation. 2, another amendment which I have covered is definition of salary. 3rd amendment which I have covered is Agnipath scheme. And of course, standard deduction under salaries chapter, you will get 50,000 flat deduction from the gross salary. Whether you are going with the default tax regime or not, doesn't matter. In the old, no, Finance Act 2022, no, standard deduction is not there. But now from 23-24 previous year, from assessment year 24-25 onwards, standard deduction up to 50,000 rupees can be claimed from gross salary, whether or not you are under default tax regime or not. So that's it. A standard deduction will be given. And I showed you already how to compute salaries 115 BAC income to normal provision income. I showed the format already in the ICA material itself. In the DTR, default tax regime, when I'm explaining itself, I clearly showed you. I hope you are confident on salaries related amendments. That's it. Only these amendments, nothing else. So you need not worry. If at all you studied based on Finance Act 2022, you need not worry. If at all you understood these few amendments, 4 amendments, more than enough.